Now, if you look at the screen, you're going to see several areas. I'm going to start with the top right of the screen. And on the screen, you'll see a television studio. And inside this TV studio, there's also some blue seats. And where the seats are, this is like a built-in studio audience. And what's cool about this facility is we now have a full-on light rig, and we have lighting controllers. So I can do several things. I can film the traditional news, which is one of the prime objectives. And then after the traditional news, I can film just the musicians playing. And we'll set up stages, and my music tech kids can perform inside this television studio. So we can fit 70 kids or parents in this little room, or we can take the chairs out and still have an intimate venue of 30 seats with a 4-camera shoot. Okay? Moving down toward the bottom, you'll see where it says television control room. That's an actual control room where we have a flat screen monitor, high-definition television. Oh, and by the way, this new TV studio is totally high-def, broadcast quality cameras, and we have the ability through a thing called a V-Brick to stream our internet content. Now, in this hallway where you're seeing PA2 is an audio recording booth. In this booth, we've got a 48-channel Yamaha digital board that we can use for our very large music productions. And then right next to that, we have a video editing suite with 3 computers. Inside the room B2, and all of this is connected to where 2 teachers can teach at the exact same time, and many times we are both teaching in this facility at the same time. We have a computer lab with 24 stations, and then we have a bullpen in the center with another 4 computers. So pretty amazing facility, and that's where in the computer lab we're able to certify kids in Logic and Final Cut, and when we get the entry-level class, we will be certifying kids in iLife as well. Now, moving across the hallway, when we move across the hallway over here, we have an office that has gear lockup where we store all the expensive cameras and things that we don't want people accessing. Then we have a sound lock. You can see that that's going into this other room. This room in B1 is where my guitar lab is, as well as the rehearsal space for our students. So we actually rehearse loud rock and roll bands after school, and what's ironic is I was a loud librarian who worked directly underneath the library. So we wait until the library closes, and then we hold our rehearsals in room B1. Now, our lab, this is what each one of our stations look like. We have a guitar lab, but I also have guitars for every single computer station. The reason being is my kids, when they're in the guitar lab, I found that they would go and take all the guitars off the guitar stations, and then I wouldn't have any guitars over there. So we have guitars that plug into an Eterol audio interface, followed by Sony headphones. We've got keyboards, as well as our Mac computers that are running GarageBand for the general classes, Logic for the advanced. Moving right along, this is what our guitar lab, and Korg and Soundtree have really helped us out with this. You'll notice that these are a row of, there's 8 guitars altogether on this row, and then in the center, we have all of the 4-station guitar labs, and I'll explain about those in a bit. On the left-hand side of the screen, you see some of the gear that we have in this guitar lab. We have 24 guitar seats, and this is the way, when you mention iPods, you're not supposed to say iPods plural, you're supposed to say iPod singular touch devices. And each one of these iPod devices has security that I had custom made for it. They rotate so that you can either look at a horizontal or vertical mode. We have 3 guitar amps, pedal boards, a bass rig, a PA system with monitors, microphones, and several electric keyboards. All of that is also fed into a pole vault system so I can project images on the screen. Closer up in our guitar lab, and this is way cool, and I'm so happy that I have these, because you can see that the guitar is going into a Korg Pandora effect unit, and that is feeding into an iPod Touch device. And they'll sit on a swivel, and the swivel is glued onto the iPod, so you really can't remove it unless you really destroy something. And again, as I mentioned, you can either look at it vertically or horizontally. The cool thing about the iPod Touch married to the Korg Pandora is finally with all of this great music that you buy, whether you're getting from Hal Leonard or Alfred, most of their books nowadays have some kind of CD so you can rip a CD into your laptop and transfer it to your iPod Touch device. Here's another view of the lab. You can see in the far corner there is a drum isolation booth. I'm really proud of that one. One of our Eagle Scouts took the design from Abbey Road Studios and made those as an Eagle Scout project. You can see the PA set up, the keyboards. That's where the students after school play the louder music. And then on the right-hand side, you'll notice all of the guitar stations. And then there's a Mac station that's in the center where we eventually will have a cord controller. You'll notice that on the left-hand side of this table, we have current uses of the technology, and on the right-hand side, future. Currently, we're using MP3 from books. We're using YouTube videos for instruction. A lot of students love to use the YouTube videos, and we have podcasts. In the future, I've asked the students to already go online and identify apps that they can be using, and then these apps they'll pick, and we will load them up. There's also a controller that's coming. We are waiting on the district to network with all the Cat5 cable that's needed to use the core controller. What's really exciting about this is once I get the guitar controller, each one of these stations I'll be able to pair the students together so that the kids will be able to work together. A best practice that I found is if you just start off your lab without having a controller, what happens is the kids really get bored after about 10 or 15 minutes. They have the attention span of gnats, and you constantly have to be doing a lot of transitions in the guitar lab to keep them excited. At the same time, you have a challenge that you have some students that come in shredding that can play better than the instructor could ever play, and then you have some kids who have never played guitar. So you have to strike a balance between differentiated instruction, where kids are on their own pace with guidance, and at the same time you have to have a consistent program where you have a curriculum where you start from the beginning and work your way through it. With the core controller, what's really going to be helpful is that while we're working with the beginning students, building their knowledge and their framework, those other students
Jamie, are you still there? I'm not sure whether we've just lost Jamie for a second. Yes, I think we've just lost Jamie for a second. Hopefully we'll get him back for the last couple of minutes. Incidentally, I do have his email address. I know many of you will be very interested in what he has to say about funding. So make a note of his email address, which I've just put in the chat page. It's James Knight, K-N-I-G-H-T, James Knight, all one word, at mac.com, because it sounds to me like with some of our connection issues, it might be easier for some of you to email him with your questions about how he managed to get such a fantastic setup going. Let's see if we can get Jamie back for the last few minutes. That may not be possible. Brian is attempting to reach him. Jamie's outboard and inboard sound is misbehaving today, but I hope the presentation is useful. Let's hold on for a second or two and see if we've still got him. You can send a chat to us at any time from the chat window, which you should see in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. He's trying to fix it. You can see we're trying to fix his internal microphone for the last few minutes. I cannot hear Jamie myself. Going to see if he's got anything. He's speaking, but we can't hear him. Brian is talking to him on the phone. Let me just unmute Brian. Brian, can you hear me? Yeah, I fear we are going to have to stop there. And a very good chat from Randy there saying, do you think Jamie could re-record this? That might very easily happen. We've recorded everything so far, of course. But I think what I'm going to do, if I may, is we're really not getting anything from him at this point. Brian, can you hear me? So I think, I think we've lost his audio really. And from Frank asking what ROP stands for, I can't quite remember what that stood for, but it's to do with the Perkins grant. I know.
You guys hear him now?
No, I can hear you, Brian. I think we've actually lost Jamie on the audio. So I think we're going to have to wind up actually because the clock is ticking away. And as I say, we may be able to re-record some of this at some point, and perhaps Jamie can send his complete presentation back. I'm going to take over as a presenter if that's okay. So sorry about that. We've lost the end of Jamie's presentation there, but I promise we will upload that for all of you to see. If I may, I'd just like to quickly wind up there because there was so much really interesting meat there in what he had to say. As I say, we will send through a transcript of that, and we will send through the recording. But a reminder, if you want to reach Jamie privately, he is jamesknight@mac.com.